Which raises the question. So I assume most clients, they kind of ease their way into this process, into using the software, right? If I'm a large organization and I have what's a common number of contracts that a medium to larger organization uses?
The number of templates or the number of contracts they are pushing out every month?
Let's say a number of contracts pushing out every month.
Yeah. So we're looking at, for a medium-sized organization, anything to 50 to 100 contracts a month, something like that. 50
to 100 contracts a month?
Yeah.
And are those repeated every month? They're the same 50 to 100?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the number is growing, obviously, because sales are growing with a certain number. Depends on what stage the organization is in, but ideally, smaller organizations start with 10 to 20 contracts, medium-sized, anything from 50 to 100 upwards a month. And then for enterprises, thousands we're talking about.
So if I'm one of these medium-sized businesses and I have 50 to 100 every month, what would be the best way to get started? I take a handful of contracts and create templates for them, or how does that work? What's the safest way to ramp up?
Usually, I mean, this is one way to approach this in this very first step. If in this understand and analyze, we just see what template creates most of the contract output by that organization. So we already with that we know what the most important process and what the most important template is, and from that usually 60 to 7% of the contract volume is generated from. And then you have all this. Concomitant contracts that come along with it, a DPA, data processing agreement that also usually being sent out of the process, but it's usually a standard contract that's the same for most of the products, some deviations here and there, some sort of service level agreement if you're selling software, data privacy policy and standard terms and condition that come with some sort of sales contracts, the horrible fives we call them.
Okay, I think the transformation here is pretty straightforward. In terms of time commitment and resources in this step from a client side, what would you say that is, since you mentioned already most of this work is done on your end?
Yeah, so this is really, we do most of the work, and then we just hand over the automated contract templates to the client. And we walk them through in the first process, and that's already where we go into the next step, where it says creating a convincing contract and proposal. As part of the create and close process, when we do the handover, we usually start with a little training with the department who's going to be mostly using that particular template, onboard them, show them how it's done. It's usually quite simple because once the thing is set up, it's really just clicking a button and say start draft a contract, and then you have a contract assistant that walks you through exactly all the processes, answers all your questions in text format, video format, so someone can actually talk your salespeople through an area of options, area of products that you have available that you can sell to the client. So someone can speak to you, head of sales, head of legal, can explain certain things to take away already some questions that keep arising as part of the process, done, which we have identified in the first two steps.
So a couple of days here?
Automated setup, yeah. Depending how many contracts we're looking at and how many templates we're trying to automate and how long the template is, but it's not vast. We're not talking years or months here. We're talking a couple of days, yeah.
Okay, so this whole understand and analyze step is really something that can be more or less be done in a week, maximum 2 weeks.
Yes.